2023 marked the end of the franchise that defined DC television since 2012, the Arrowverse. Not just that, but also every show that debuted on the short-lived DC Universe streaming service before being moved to somewhere else has also ended aside from one. So, as we enter a new era of DC television, what does the future have in store? Well, in this video, I'll be going over everything we know about every DC TV show that's been confirmed for the future going into 2024, including both live-action and animated series. This video will be split up into two sections, starting with the new seasons of already existing shows, of which there are 5, although there are shows like Teen Titans Go or the kids show Batwheels, which haven't been officially renewed but haven't been cancelled either, although I wouldn't have covered those shows for very long anyway, because they are for little kids. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below which one of these shows you're anticipating, and let's begin starting in order of how long ago the previous season aired. We start with Peacemaker, which aired its first well-received 8-episode John Cena-led DCEU set first season on HBO Max in early 2022. Season 2 will be going through a bit of a transition, now airing on the renamed Max, which is effectively the same thing as HBO Max. Peacemaker Season 2 is currently being written and will be at least partially directed by James Gunn, who confirmed it will release after his Superman Legacy, meaning sometime after July 11, 2025, creating at least a 3.5-year gap between seasons, which might be closer to a 4, 4.5, or even 5-year gap in the end, which is wild. The TV show should never have that long of a gap between seasons, especially since it's just the second season. My prediction is that it will be released in late 2025. Furthermore, the second season will actually take place in an entirely different universe from the first, instead of the DCEU in the DCU, a change that James Gunn has said will be addressed within the plot of the season itself. The Sandman released its first 11-episode season on Netflix in August 2022, and while it took a little while and was uncertain due to Netflix's tendency to cancel everything, it was eventually renewed for a second season, which seems to be coming out in some point in 2024. The first season covered the first 16 issues of the comic series, with the bonus episode adding 2 more. It's very likely that the second season will cover the next 18 or so issues, but honestly, aside from that, we don't know anything about the season at all. It's safe to assume that the majority of the cast of the first season will be returning. The final DC show on the CW is Superman and Lois, which had its 13-episode long third season released between March and June 2023, and much like the Sandman, there were rumors and even official talks at the CW that it will be cancelled, although in the end it was renewed for a 4th and final season, which will have a reduced episode count to 10, a reduced budget, and a very reduced cast, as the only remaining series regulars are Superman, Lois Lane, Jordan Kent, Jonathan Kent, and the new series regular Lex Luthor. On one hand, the reduced cast isn't entirely a bad thing, as having too many characters was always the show's greatest issue. On the other hand, having a reduced budget does not bode well for the visuals and action scenes, which with the show has excelled. Either way, while 2023 marked the end of the Arrowverse, 2024, with Superman and Lois's 4th and final season, will mark the end of DC on the CW, it seems like for good. Probably my most anticipated DC show that is returning for 2024 is My Adventures with Superman, which aired its 10-episode long first season on Adult Swim between July and September 2023, and will air its second season on Adult Swim in 2024. The previous season ended with some loose threads involving the Kryptonian and possibly Brainiac-based main plot. Additionally, the writers at one point said they won't be including Lex Luthor in Season 1, meaning it's likely he will appear in Season 2. Unless this Alex guy will end up being Lex Luthor, so he was in Season 1 the entire time. Finally, for the returning shows is Harley Quinn, which also aired its previous seasons between July and September 2023. The previous season was 10 episodes long, as was the one before that, so it's likely that the next season, Season 5, will be the same. Getting a 5th season is quite the feat, as Harley Quinn is the only show from the DC Universe streaming service to last that long. Not to mention, it simply is now one of the longest running animated DC shows ever. I mean, Justice League Unlimited / Justice League also had 5 seasons. I haven't actually seen Season 4, so I can't speak to where it left off, but I'm sure that Season 5 will be more of this ridiculous, brutal, and occasionally funny show airing on Max at some point in 2024. Before Season 5 of Harley Quinn, though, there will be a spin-off show, which brings us to the next category of this video, which are all the new shows, of which there are actually a lot. There are 14 of them. and 4 of them already have trailers. First up is Kite Man Hell Yeah, a spin-off show of Harley Quinn following one of the breakout characters of that show, Kite Man, who is a villain and main romantic rival of Harley's for Poison Ivy's affection in one particular season before rebounding with Golden Glider of all characters. The show will feature the likes of Kite Man, Golden Glider, and Bane as the main characters, while others like Harley, Ivy, Lex Luthor, Queen of Fables, and Darkseid all appear in a show that follows Kite Man and Golden Glider opening a villain bar called Noonan's, not too dissimilar from Hishi's Villain Pub, or Hissy as they like to call themselves, airing on MAWS at some point in 2024. Sticking to the Harley Quinn theme, Suicide Squad Isekai is the first official Japanese anime production of a DC property. Isekai is an anime/manga subgenre focusing on certain characters transporting to another world, which is indeed the case for here as well, despite not having a release date beyond just 2024 or even an announcement as to where it will air. Suicide Squad Isekai already has 2 trailers. The first showed a look at the Joker and Amanda Waller, but focused almost entirely on Harley Quinn, making it look like another Harley Quinn show despite the name. Luckily, trailer 2 showed that it is indeed a Suicide Squad show, featuring alongside Joker, Amanda Waller, and Harley Quinn, who is certainly the main character, the likes of Deadshot, King Shark, Clayface, and Peacemaker, the latter of whom is actually making his animated debut in the show. This will certainly be one of the most unique DC shows, especially since it's entirely in Japanese. Doom Patrol, which recently ended after 4 seasons, had an episode called Dead Patrol in Season 3, which introduced the Dead Boy Detectives, a group of 2 ghosts named Charles Rowland and Edwin Payne, who solve paranormal mysteries alongside their human companion who could see ghosts, Crystal Palace. It seems like this was supposed to act as a backdoor pilot for a potential spin-off show on HBO Max. Instead, Netflix picked up the idea, completely recast almost every character, and set the show not in the Doom Patrol universe, but instead in the same universe as The Sandman, also on Netflix. Now starring George Rextrew as Edwin Payne, Jaden Reverie as Charles Rowland, and Crazius Nelson as Crystal Palace. Interestingly, they are bringing back Ruth Connell as Nightmare Nurse, who played the same character in Doom Patrol, so there's that. Unlike Sandman, the Dead Boy Detectives don't really have a long-running comic, so it's likely that a lot of the show will be completely original. It's also possible that the show will have a crossover in some way with The Sandman. Dead Boy Detectives will air its 8th episode sometime in 2024, certainly before The Sandman Season 2, as it already has a trailer while The Sandman Season 2 does not. The final show to have a trailer as of this video is The Penguin, a spin-off of The Batman and set in the same universe. The Penguin will focus on Colin Farrell's Oz Cobblepot as he rises to power in Gotham City's criminal underworld, coming into conflict with the other crime families such as the Falcones, whose patriarch died in The Batman, and the Maronis, as characters like Sofia Falcone, played by Kristen Milioti, Alberto Falcone, played by Michael Zagana, Sal Maroni, played by Clancy Brown, and Johnny Vitti all appear. A cameo from Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne or Zoe Kravitz's Selena Kyle is not entirely out of the question, but also not confirmed. The Penguin will be an 8-episode Max miniseries, meaning it won't be getting a 2nd season, and it will release in 2024. It's also the first of 3 confirmed series set in the Batverse, and will act as a sort of bridge between The Batman and The Batman Part 2, which releases in 2025. This brings us to the first DCU TV show, and in fact, the first ever DCU project, Creature Commandos. Confirmed alongside 9 other Gods and Monsters projects, Creature Commandos was written by James Gunn and is so far the only confirmed animated DCU project, although Gunn has confirmed that certain characters from the show will eventually appear in live action. Some of the confirmed characters as of right now include Rick Flag Sr., the father of Rick Flag, who went through similar events in this universe to the Suicide Squad, meaning he's dead, as well as Eric Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Nina Mazursky, Dr. Phosphorus, G.I. Robot, Ilana Rostovic, Cersei, and 3 characters returning from the DCEU with the same actors, Amanda Waller, Johnny Economos, and Weasel. All of these characters have been cast as well. The show will feature 7 episodes airing on Max in 2024 and focus on a new monster-based Suicide Squad run by Amanda Waller. While a trailer has yet to be released, concept art shows the general look of the locations of the show, as well as the 2 Frankenstein characters, who notably look a bit different from the original first look. The comic inspiration is apparently Weird War Tales 93, but I think that's really just because it's the Commandos' first appearance, and they haven't really had many comics. I think James Gunn will be mostly reinventing another Z-list superhero group like he did with the Guardians in the past. One place where those characters might be appearing in live action is the next DCU show, Waller. Following up on the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and Creature Commandos, Waller stars Viola Davis as Amanda Waller as she's arrested for her illegal and unethical Task Force X. Steve Agee also is confirmed to return yet again as Johnny Cosmos, as well as a few more Peacemaker characters as confirmed by the show's main writer, James Gunn, who said despite being a spin-off of Peacemaker, it won't have the same tone, it won't nearly have as much comedy. Waller will be showrun by Crystal Henry, who was the writer and supervising producer on Watchmen, as well as Jeremy Carver, the showrunner on Doom Patrol, both some of DC's better shows. Combine that with James Gunn's writing and Waller's excellent casting, as well as the fact that they probably wouldn't make an Amanda Waller show if they didn't have a really good story to tell, and I think this show is probably going to be pretty high quality. It's also more than likely that it will be a miniseries and not get a second season. Waller will take primary inspiration from issues 39 through 43 of Suicide Squad Volume 1, which makes up a story known as The Phoenix Gambit, and will release on Max either before or after Superman Legacy, depending on if it's ready by then, meaning anytime from late 2024 through late 2025 is a possibility. Stepping away from the DCU for a minute, two separate animated Batman shows are currently being developed at the same time over at Prime Video, and they couldn't be more different from each other. First is a show that feels like it's been in development for years and feels like it's never going to be coming out, as it was announced all the way back in mid-2021 and hasn't had a single bit of material released for it at all. That is Batman Caped Crusader. Produced by Matt Reeves, J.J. Abrams, and Bruce Timm, and head written by Ed Brubaker, Batman Caped Crusader is set to be a reimagining of the Batman mythology, as well as thrilling, cinematic, and evocative of Batman's noir roots, while diving deeper into a psychology of these iconic characters. The art style seems to be the same as the DCAU / Bruce Timm art, although a leaked image looks like the show may use 3D animation. Batman's design is based on the original 1939 look, although I could definitely see that changing and evolving over time. And while the show was originally going to air on HBO Max, it was shelved by Warner Bros. Discovery before being picked up for 2 seasons over at Prime Video, which is building up an impressive comic book TV library. It's possible that Kevin Conroy was going to reprise his role as Batman, which will have to be changed after his death in 2022. Still, I'd be surprised if the show isn't released, or at the very least a trailer, some sort of news, isn't released by the end of 2024. At one point, the show was described as Batman the Animated Series if it didn't have censors, so Bruce Timm could do whatever he wanted, which is not actually a good thing. The censors kept him in check. Whenever he got a PG-13 or rated R movie like Batman and Harley Quinn or Batman the Killing Joke, it didn't end well. He needed those censors to keep him in check. Luckily, he's not the head writer, it's Ed Brubaker, so it probably won't be infected by that, but it is still definitely possible. The other Prime Video animated Batman show is a much weirder one. Titled Bat Family, the show is a spin-off of the Prime Video movie releasing around the same time as this video, Merry Little Batman, which focuses on a child Damian Wayne becoming a little Batman to save Gotham from some villains on Christmas while Batman is away with the Justice League. Aside from the weird art style and very lighthearted tone, this also seems to be a bit of an unusual Batman mythology, as Batman has a beard that seems to be sticking around. None of the other Robins seem to exist, and in fact Damian isn't Robin but rather Little Batman. It's certainly not the Batman show I'm anticipating between the two, but it could certainly be fun, and it is likely to release at some point in 2024. Sticking to animation, a show called Beast Boy Lone Wolf will release at some point in 2024 on both Cartoon Network and Max, with 10 episodes that are described as shorts and a short series that focuses on exactly what the title promises: Beast Boy off on his own, which is not something he does very often. He's not exactly a solo character. He's always with the Titans, or the Teen Titans, or Young Justice, or even the Doom Patrol at some point. While it's possible this will be a spin-off of Teen Titans Go, it's equally as possible that it'll be something new with a new art style and tone. It is, however, not likely to leave much of an impact due to how short it sounds. It's only 10 episodes, but also each episode is described as a short, so it's probably in its entirety like half an hour long. Returning to live action in the DCU, we start with Lanterns. There has been a Green Lantern TV show in the works at HBO Max for years now, like since 2018, that would have focused initially on the lesser-known Lanterns like Alan Scott and Guy Gardner. In fact, both of them were cast for the show and would have likely taken place in a standalone universe. Later on, it was reworked into a Jon Stewart-led show, but when James Gunn was brought on as the CEO of DC Studios, that show was mostly canned and reworked into what we now know as Lanterns, a show on Max set in the DCU, focusing on Jon Stewart but also on Hal Jordan, while also likely having an appearance from Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion, who will debut prior to this in Superman Legacy. The show is described as an Earth-based, true detective-inspired mystery thriller where the Lanterns are space cops on District Earth, and they discover a terrifying mystery that ties into the larger DCU story. The comic, touted as the comic inspiration for the series, is Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps Volume 1, while the visual representation used in the original Gods and Monsters video is from Green Lantern Earth 1, which was a mildly more grounded take on the Green Lantern mythos, but also it was completely reworked. It even featured Jon Stewart as a Yellow Lantern, which we see in the visual representation, although that is, I think, unlikely to happen in the series. My prediction for this series is that it will release in 2026, but late 2026. Although it is certainly possible it could release earlier, we only know it will release after Superman Legacy, so again, after July 2025. It is definitely about time that the Green Lanterns have a return to live action, as they were very absent from the 2010s. Both the DCEU and the Arrowverse did not feature the Green Lanterns very much at all. Another one of the Max DCU series is Booster Gold. James Gunn described the character as one of comics' most popular cult heroes. He's a loser from the future who uses future technology to come back to the present day and become a superhero so that people will love him. Based on this, it's likely that the series will showcase his origin, which makes sense since it's not exactly common knowledge for most people. Gunn also described the show as a superhero story of imposter syndrome in an HBO Max series. The comic inspiration for this series will be the entire second volume of Booster Gold from between 2007 and 2011, which featured, in my opinion, some of the best character development I've ever seen in comics. It'd be awesome to see that replicated on screen. My prediction is that it will release in early 2026, but again, all we really know is that it will be released after Superman Legacy. And finally, for the DCU Max series is the least expected one, Paradise Lost, described by James Gunn as a story of Themyscira prior to Diana's birth in a political thriller inspired heavily by Game of Thrones. Nothing beyond that is confirmed, but we could certainly assume that Hippolyta will probably be the main character, many of the Greek gods will probably appear, and Circe will probably be jumping from animation to live action, played again by Anya Chalotra like she was in Creature Commandos. The visual representation of the series comes from a panel from the 7th and final volume of the New 52 Wonder Woman run, although it'll take more inspiration from other Wonder Woman comics as per James Gunn, comics like Paradise Island Lost, Historia of the Amazons, The Circle, and Wonder Woman by George Perez. All of which in spite of the fact that Wonder Woman won't actually be appearing in the series unless there are flash forwards, or maybe she appears as a baby in the end. My prediction is that this will be a mini-series, meaning it won't be getting a second season, and it'll be the final released confirmed project as of right now, releasing maybe in mid-2027, so not for a good long while. On the topic of Wonder Woman, I should also mention that despite the fact that there aren't any confirmed shows, James Gunn has mentioned that they are working on something to do with Wonder Woman in animation, specifically a Wonder Woman animated series. It hasn't been officially confirmed, but I think it is pretty much confirmed that it is in development, and there is a Wonder Woman animated series on the horizon in the next few years. Finally for this video are two more Max shows set in the Batverse that we don't know anything about outside of some minimal details, including the titles. One show will follow the GCPD, with Joe Barton serving as showrunner. The show was apparently originally going to focus on a corrupt cop who's an original character, which HBO Max took issue with, encouraging the original creator of the show, Matt Reeves, to focus on comic characters, which in my opinion is absolutely the right call. After that, the series was set to be on hold, but was later said to still be in development. So it can still definitely happen. If it does, then it probably should take a page out of Gotham's book and have James Gordon be the main character, while introducing characters like Harvey Bullock, Renee Montoya, and other members of the GCPD from the comics. Finally is an even more vague show, an untitled Arkham series show-run by Antonia Campos that explores the origin of different characters related to Arkham in a show with a horror tone, as Arkham Asylum is depicted as a haunted house. I'm not entirely sure if that means the focus will be on actual Arkham-related characters like Jeremiah Arkham or any of the other staff members, or if it will focus on some of the inmates like the Batman Rogues Gallery, most likely Barry Keoghan's Joker. If I could choose the direction of this show, I'd make it an anthology series based on the recent One Bad Day line of comics, with each episode showing a dark tale related to a different Batman rogue, potentially their origin, told from their perspective as they recount it from inside a cell in Arkham Asylum. The details are too bare to truly know what this show will become, and even if it gets made at all. For now, the only Batverse show that is 100% being made is The Penguin. And so there you have it, every upcoming DCTV show from animation to live action to returning shows to new ones. And if you count the animated Wonder Woman series that I briefly mentioned, that's 20 series that make up the new era of DCTV, and I don't think that's all of them. So let me know in the comments down below which show you're most anticipating. I'd personally probably go with Lanterns, because it's long past time they get their live action due. And thanks for watching.